Today we're going to learn about finding the surface area of rectangular prisms. Okay, so number one says surface area is the total area of the surface of a 3D or three-dimensional object. And remember, 3D means that you can hold it, you can pick it up. Okay. Number two says, what are some ways you might use surface area in real life? So if you remember from yesterday, we talked a little bit about how you might do this. So one way would be if you're wrapping a present. Another way might be if you're painting. And then there are many more. Okay? A blank is a two-dimensional representation of a three-dimensional figure. You should remember this from the lesson yesterday. And so this would be a net. Okay, so remember a net's when you take a 3D figure and you unfold it. Okay, number four says you can use nets to help you find surface area. Okay, to find the surface area, find the area of each face, then add the areas together. And I'm just going to put a little star right here because this is just like how we find the area of composite figures. Okay? So I'm just going to put a note there because it's very similar, or really it's the same thing. You have a shape made up of several different shapes. You find the area of each and add it together. Okay? So before we start, we're talking about rectangular prisms. So over here, I just want us to remind ourselves of the formula for finding the area of a rectangle. So for a rectangle, our formula should be area equals base times height. Okay? So we're going to start with this example, and they've labeled all of our faces for us. That way we can create this pretty little chart. Find the areas, add them together. Okay, so I like to start by labeling all of the sides, labeling all of the dimensions. Okay, and the only tricky part is if you're not careful, you'll say that these 2 centimeters go with this line and this line, but it actually goes with this line. If you look down here, you can see it. So this is 2, this is 2, because if this is 3, this is 3. And all of these are the same size. So that means this is 3, that tells you 3, so that means this is 3, this is 3, this is 3, 3, and 3. Okay? Then if this is 5, that means this line is 5, this line is 5, this one's 5, and this one's 5. And if this is 3, and this is 3, and this is 3, I bet you can't guess what this is. Yep, it's 3. Okay, so we're going to start with A, and it is a rectangle, so we know it's base times height. And if you need to cover it up, you can. And you can see that it's going to be 5 times 3. So 5 times 3 should give you 15. Then B is going to be the same thing, 5 times 3. C is the same size, and if you look at it, 3 and 5 again. So 5 times 3 is 15. And one more time for D, it's 5 times 3 again. So 5 times 3 is 15. Okay? Now we're going to look at E and F. And if you want to cover it up, you can. So E should be 3 times 2, which is 6. Which means that F is going to be the same thing, and if you cover it up and look at it, it is 3 times 2. So once again, 3 times 2 is 6. And once you've found the area for all of the faces, all you do is add the numbers together, and you should have your calculator. So if you add 15, 15, 15, 15, 6, and 6, you should get a total area of 72 centimeters squared. And that would be the surface area for this rectangular prism. Okay, we're going to skip number 8. We don't want to use any other formula. We know the easiest one for each of the rectangles is base times height. And now we're going to talk about how to find the surface area when we don't have the net, so they're not giving us the net. Okay, you can draw the net, but sometimes I think that's harder. So I'm going to show you how to find the surface area while it's three-dimensional and you don't have the net. Okay, so if you remember yesterday, we talked about the classroom that you're currently sitting in. You have a front and a back of the classroom. You have the ceiling and the floor, top and bottom. Then you have the left side of the classroom and the right side of the classroom. Well, you're sitting in a rectangular prism. So this has the same number of faces, the same thing. So what I do is I say we have a front and we have a back, okay? And the reason I put a slash is because the front and the back of the room have to be the same size in order for you to be sitting level, okay? So that means that the left side of the classroom and the right side of the classroom are also going to be the same size, like the wall. Just like the sides of these are the same, okay? And then the last thing that you have is you have a top and a bottom of this shape, just like you have the ceiling and the floor of the classroom. All right, and the good thing is if you can find the area of the front, you automatically have the area for the back. Area of the left, same area for the right. Top, same as the bottom, okay? So if we're going to look at the front, we're looking at this rectangle right here. And I always outline it because sometimes outlining it tells you what lines you're looking for. So automatically 10 jumps out as me as the base, or out to me as the base. So I know that it's area equals base times height for my triangle, so I know it's going to be 10 for my base times, now, is my height 3 or 4? If you said 4, you're correct because if this line is 4, this line is 4. So 10 times 4 gives me 40, and then we have a front and a back, so that means 2 areas of 40, which should give me 80 for the total for the front and the back. Okay, or you could do 40 times 2. Now if we're going to talk about the left and the right already has dimensions. So it's going to be this rectangle here. And if you trace it, you see that you're looking at this line of 4, this line of 3. So it should be 3 times 4, which is 12. And you have a right and a left. They're the same. So 2 12s gives us 24 for the total of the left and the right. And last but not least, you just have the top and the bottom. So the bottom is this down here. And since the dimensions are down here, I trace the line of 10 and I trace the line of 3. So I'm going to do 10 times 3, which is 30. I have a bottom as well, or a top. 30 plus 30 gives me 60. So now you have the totals for the front, the back, the left, the right, the top, the bottom. So all that's left to do is add them all together. So you want to add together 60, 24, and 80. And once you add all of those together, you get your total surface area of 164 millimeters squared. So that wasn't so bad after all, was it? Okay. Now, number 10 says the surface area of a cube is blank. And the reason we talk about this is because a cube is made up of what types of shapes? If you said squares, you're correct. And we know that squares all have equal sides. So what that means is when you're looking at this cube down here, 5 is the length or the base, but it's also going to be your height. So if you wanted to, you could just say for a cube, base times height times 6. And we say times 6 because we have a top and a bottom, a front and a back, a left and a right, which is 6 bases. Okay? So if we want to use that method, we're going to say this is a cube. I know it's a cube because I have one dimension. So I could say 5 times 5, which will tell me the area of one face. And then I multiply by 6, which is the number of faces. And that gives me a total area of 150 meters squared. So a cube is just that easy. Okay? All right. So we found the surface area of a rectangular prism when given a net. When given a rectangular prism that's three-dimensional, no net. And we've done the surface area of a cube. Okay? So now let's turn over to the back. And I want you to do number 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay? We're going to do number, they skipped 5 and 6. It's okay. We're going to do number, what it says 7, but it's really our number 5 together, okay? But before we do, let's just look at number 1 and let's be sure we've got the labeling down pat. So let's label number 1 together, all the sides. Okay? So remember, the 5 goes with this, which means it goes with this line up here. Okay? So if this is 4, this is 4. This is 4, this is 4. If this is 4, this is 4. So this is 4, 4, 4, 4. If this is 7, this is 7, 7, 7, 7. So now you've just got to find the area of all of them. And if you want to label them A, B, C, D, E, F, you can. So you can do A, B, C, D, E, and F, just like the one we did together. And you can make you a little chart or organize it using that if you want to, okay? All right, let's look at number 7. So number 7 is a word problem. So let's read it together. James is wrapping a birthday gift for his mom. The box has a length of 4 feet, a width of 3 feet, and a height of 1 foot. What is the exact amount of wrapping paper that he needs to cover the gift? Okay, so we should know this is three-dimensional because we have 3 dimensions. We should also know that we're finding surface area because he's wrapping a birthday gift. And we said wrapping was an example. So if you want to draw the rectangular prism, we can. You just draw a rectangle and another rectangle, but kind of inside and to the right. And then we just connect them like this. If you can't draw it, it's okay. And it says that our length is 4 feet, so this is going to be 4 feet. Our width is 3, so my width is here, and my height is 1. Okay? So now you can go through and you can find each face like we did, top, bottom, left, right, front, back. Or a trick is you have 3 dimensions. If we go back and we look over here, you're taking each dimension and you're just multiplying it by itself and then adding the product or multiplying by 2 each time. So you're taking 10 times 3 at some point, 10 times 4 at some point, and then 3 times 4 at some point. So kind of a shortcut or a secret is, if you have the 3 numbers, just take them and multiply them all by each other, and then each one by 2. Let me show you what I mean. So I'll start with 4 times 3, which is 12. And then I'm going to have 2 of those because each face has 2 the same. So if we're looking at the shape, I just did the bottom. I did 3 times 4, which is, if you want me to do it in another color, this bottom down here. Okay? Well, if the bottom's 4 times 3, the top's going to be 4 times 3 too. So that means the bottom and the top together is 24. So I did 4 times 3. Now let's do 4 times 1. If I do 4 times 1, it gives me 4. There's going to be 2 faces with this area, so that's 8. Well, if you look, I just did the back, okay? Because if this is 1, that means this line is 1. So I just did the front and the back's area. And now the last thing to do, we did 4 times 3, 4 times 1. The only 2 things we haven't multiplied together is 3 times 1. So if I do 3 times 1, I get 3. There's 2 of them, so that's 6. So if you look, I just did the left and the right. Okay? So it's really that simple. So now I'm going to add these sums together to get my total surface area of 24 plus 8 should give me 32. 32 plus 6 gives me a total area of 38, and then it's feet squared. Okay? So there's your little shortcut, but do know you can draw the shape and figure it out that way. Go ahead and finish the rest of this practice on your own.